September 14, 1953. The morning air at Edgewood Arsenal, Maryland was so cold it felt like needles pressing against my skin, but inside my dress uniform I was drenched in a cold sweat that wouldn't stop. We were told we were heroes. We were told we were part of a specialized defensive research unit that would provide the shield America needed to survive a nuclear or chemical strike from the Soviets. But the moment those heavy steel doors groaned shut behind me, my name, my rank, and my humanity were stripped away. I am 99 years old today, and I have spent 7 decades guarding the silence of those windowless rooms, but as the light of my own life begins to flicker, I can no longer carry the weight of the screams that the government tried to redact from history. You see these medals on my shelf? They are hollow. You see the black and white photos of us smiling in our helmets? Those were for the propaganda reels. I am the last survivor of a nightmare that officially never happened, and I am breaking my silence because the ghosts of the ghost soldiers are tired of being buried in a lie. If you're under 50 and you think you're a citizen with rights, I want you to lean in close because I'm about to tell you what happens when your own government decides you are more valuable as a lab rat than as a human being. They didn't call us by our names. I was Subject 42. My best friend, a farm boy from Nebraska named Frank, was Subject 43. We were led into a chamber that looked like a high-tech meat locker where men in pristine white lab coats stood behind thick glass, clutching clipboards like they were holding the secrets to the universe. They told us through a speaker that we were testing new equipment to keep our boys safe in the trenches. They told us to put on the masks and stay calm. But the masks were a trick. They weren't there to filter the air. They were there to deliver the poison directly into our lungs. I watched through the haze as they released the gas. It wasn't the fog they promised. It was Sarin and VX nerve agents. I can still see Frank's face through the glass of his mask. One moment he was giving me a thumbs up, trying to be brave, and the next, his eyes rolled back until they were nothing but white. He started to convulse, his body hitting the floor with a sound that still echoes in my nightmares. The doctors didn't rush in to save him. They didn't call for a medic. They just stood there looking at their watches, scribbling notes about how many seconds it took for his central nervous system to collapse. They wrote Experiment 4A, dosage excessive, terminate subject on his file. They told his mother he died in a Jeep accident during a training exercise. They buried him in a closed casket to hide the chemical burns, and they buried the truth under a top-secret stamp that remained sealed for 50 years. But the physical torture was only the beginning. The government was obsessed with the idea of the Manchurian candidate, and they used us to find out if the human mind could be broken and rebuilt. They called it MKUltra, but to us, it was just the room of shadows. They would spike our morning coffee with high doses of LSD and psychochemicals without our knowledge. I remember sitting in a white room for 3 days straight, convinced that the floor was made of teeth and that the walls were bleeding the names of my dead ancestors. I begged for mercy. I cried for my mother, but the men behind the conch, glass, just watched, recording the exact minute my mind fractured. They wanted to know if they could erase a man's memory and replace it with a mission. They stole our identities. When I was finally allowed to go home, I wasn't the Elias who had left. I was a shell. I was terrified of the light. I couldn't look my own children in the eye because I was convinced they were government spies sent to see if I would break my oath of silence. We were ghost soldiers, Jinky Kurbani, whose sacrifice was deleted from the ledger so the government could keep its hands looking clean. We didn't get the Purple Hearts. We didn't get the VA benefits. We were told that if we ever spoke a word of what happened in Maryland, we would be labeled as traitors and disappeared into a federal prison. You think the American dream is built on freedom and justice for all? I've seen the basement where that dream is manufactured, and it's built on the backs of expendables. I remember Operation Sea Spray in 1950 when I was stationed on a Navy ship off the coast of San Francisco. They told us we were testing visibility in fog. They had us release massive clouds of what we thought was harmless smoke into the city air. I felt proud, thinking I was helping the Navy develop better navigation tools. Years later, I found the declassified files that proved we were actually spraying Serratia marcescens, a bacteria they wanted to use to see how a biological attack would spread through an American city. Thousands of innocent people got sick. People died. We poisoned our own citizens, our own brothers and sisters, just to gather data for a war we weren't even in yet. I am the man who pulled the lever. I am the man who helped poison a city because I trusted the uniform more than my own conscience. That is the true cost of just following orders. I am telling you this in 2026 because the world hasn't changed as much as you think. The technology is different. Now they use algorithms and screens instead of gas and needles, but the mindset is exactly the same. To a system that values national security above all else, you are still just a number. You are still Subject 42. You are still expendable if your sacrifice helps the brand stay strong. I see you young people surrendering your privacy, your data, and your very souls to companies and institutions that don't know your name and wouldn't care if you vanished tomorrow. My warning to you as I stand on the edge of a century is to never stop asking why. Why are they asking for your trust? Why are they hiding the results? Why is the truth always buried in a basement? If you don't demand the truth today, you will be the redacted history of tomorrow. I remember the smell of the ink on those classified folders. It smelled like a funeral. I spent 50 years filing away the lives of boys like Miller, Frank, and Leo, knowing that their mothers would die, never knowing where their sons really fell. History books are a curated museum of lies designed to make you feel safe and proud. But the real history of this country is written in the blood of the people we decided didn't matter. I've lived long enough to see the government admit to Project Paperclip, and I've lived long enough to see them apologize for the Tuskegee experiments, but I am still waiting for them to acknowledge the boys of the 1953 nightmare. They are waiting for me to die, so the last eyewitness is gone, but I am still breathing, I am still here, and I am handing the files to you. Don't let them turn you into a machine. Don't let them tell you that your health, your mind, or your life is a fair trade for progress. Science without a soul is just a sophisticated form of murder. I saw it in the eyes of the doctors at Edgewood, and I see it in the cold, calculated utility of the leaders today. I would trade every year of my long life just to go back to that morning in 1953 and tell Frank to run. I would tell him that the flag on his shoulder wouldn't save him from the men behind the glass, but I can't go back. I can only go forward into the dark with a clear conscience because I finally told the truth. 50,000 soldiers were deleted from the records of the secret war. Thousands more were used as lab rats in the 50s. They were your grandfathers. They were your heroes. And they were betrayed by the very thing they swore to protect. I am closing the folders now. The dust is heavy and my hands are shaking, not from age, but from the fury of a century of silence. I can still hear the roar of the V-2 rockets and the whistle of the shells, but beneath it all, I hear the silence of the laboratory. It's a silence that screams. I hope you never have to hear it. I hope your life is more than a line item on a budget. I hope you have the grit to be a seeker of truth in a world of sheep. The horizon is always closer than you think, and the water is never as clear as they tell you it is. Keep the watch. Don't let the fire go out. My kids forgot me, but the ghosts of Subject 43 never did. I am going home now to see them again. I hope I did them proud. Thank God for one more day. Now go, make it count by refusing to be a lab rat in someone else's nightmare. Goodbye, America. I loved you enough to tell you the truth. Now do something with it. I can still feel the vibration of the engines under my feet from that ship in 1950. It's a feeling of power that turns into a feeling of shame when you realize what that power was used for. Don't be enamored by the power of your era. Look at the victims. Look at the people in the shadows. That is where the truth lives. I am 99 and I am finally, truly Frank. No titles, no secrets, no redactions. Just an old man telling you that the truth is the only thing that will keep you from becoming a ghost in your own life. Every 8 minutes for 9 years, we dropped a plane load of bombs on a country of farmers during a war we said wasn't happening. We paperclipped the records of monsters to make them heroes. We used our own boys as guinea pigs. This is the foundation you are standing on. Be careful where you step, and never, ever stop looking for what they buried. 99 years, and it feels like a single afternoon in that basement. Make your afternoon matter. Be brave. Be kind. Be real. Goodbye.